Hi, everyone. Hi, Christine.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for being on. I'm so excited. I have a fellow same name, and she's also a money coach. And then, yeah, we're going to talk all about money and emotions today. So, why
I
don't we get
know.
started, Christine, by you introducing yourself? I know you're a money coach, whatever. So, why don't you say more? But I know you do a lot more things than I do. You train financial planners, financial advisors. So, why don't you tell everything that you do?
Okay, so I am Christine Luken. I'm known as the financial lifeguard, and I have been a certified financial counselor, is my official title, but most people are more familiar with the term money coach. I've been doing that for 12 years now, 8 of those full time. And so, like you, I work with individuals one on one. However, the clients that I'm usually working with are high income professionals who are usually in the 35 to 55 age range. And I really enjoy working with women going through divorce. I do work with some couples. It's about 50-50, but I do have a very special place in my heart for women who are going through that. And part of that is because of my own personal story and how I became a money coach, because honestly, that wasn't the career path that I had initially chosen. I got an accounting degree, and my goal was joining the family business, which I was a part of for 13 years as the vice president of HR and accounting and, part owner. But in my 20s, I crashed and burned financially despite having that accounting degree. And so there was a lot of shame and embarrassment around that, because I was someone who should have known better, right? Like, I had all the head knowledge. I was actually already working for the family business as the staff accountant, and yet I was bouncing my checks at home. And some people are like, well, how did you possibly get into that situation? Well, yes, I did have the head knowledge, but I was engaged to a guy who had terrible money habits. He was in and out of jobs and even in and out of jail. And I thought, if I just loved him
Mm-hmm.
enough, that he would change. And he
Mm-hmm.
did. He got worse.
Those usually doesn't work. Hoping like praying that they
No.
will change.
I know. I tell any woman out there, like, if you're thinking if you love him more that he's going to change, like, just cut your losses and go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, at age 26, I found myself, starting over and, like, basically in the hole in debt. And I think it was just even worse because I was somebody who should have known better. Like, I had all the head knowledge, and yet I just, completely just, I mean, my credit, if it's possible for a credit score to be negative, mine was.
Mm.
It was that bad. I mean, I had all kinds of collections. I owed payday lenders money. I was behind on my car payment.
Mm-hmm.
And because we actually didn't get married, so we were engaged, um, we were financially entangled. So he was actually like an authorized user on my credit cards, etc. But because we weren't married, he wasn't legally responsible for half of that debt. So all the debt was in my name. And just going through that process of having to rebuild and just learning, I became fascinated with why people do what they do with their money, because I was also fascinated with what I had gone through, to say,
Mm-hmm.
how could somebody who is smart like me, who got scholarships to college, was on
Mm-hmm.
the honor roll, do something this stupid, right? And that's when I started my journey of really learning about, the emotional side of money and the psychology of money. And my journey in helping people with money actually just started as a volunteer. I actually was helping to teach a financial literacy course at my church,
Mm-hmm.
and did that for 10 years. And what I realized is the how-to stuff was in there, but there was something that was really significant that was missing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all the stuff that you and I talk about, all this stuff about what's going on under the surface. What are you thinking about money? What are you
Mhm.
saying about money? How is your relationship with money? And it's really only been in recent years that people have really started to talk about this. So that's why, like, when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, we are like the Wonder Twins, right? Not only do we have the
Same
same
name
name,
too.
but it's like, we both love helping people with money. And even though, our clients are a little bit different, we still have that same approach to being more holistic
Yep.
about your finances,
Mhm.
and not being so extreme about
Mhm.
it. So yeah, it's been definitely been an interesting journey, and I never thought that I would be training other financial coaches and financial
Mhm.
planners about the emotional side of money, but have been doing that the last year and a half or so, and
Mhm.
that part of my business has really started to take
Mhm.
off because I think financial professionals realize that, I mean, with the rise of things like robo advisors,
Mhm.
it's like
Yep.
anybody, even a machine can pick investments, but what
Yep.
differentiates you? You know,
Mhm.
it's
Yep.
you helping people through those emotional times in their lives and helping them to make good
Mhm.
decisions.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that
You
really
can't
is
counsel
the value.
yourself. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt there. Yeah, it's like you can be your own therapist, right? Like I just got back from a massage. You can't really I mean, you can try to massage yourself. But I'm like, oh, I can't really reach some of the nuts. So it's the same analogy. So yeah, try to be your own therapist, your own masseuse. Then you know.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So you said you were doing money coaching full time and now not anymore. So I guess you meant not anymore because you're training financial advisors now.
Well, yeah, there are several
Mhm.
streams to my income. So,
Mhm.
I am doing my financial coaching business full time. So, when I first started, I actually started it part time. So, the first four
Mhm.
years that I was in business, I was actually working a full time job and doing the coaching part time. And that's really how I came to that point, which you came to as well, that,
Mhm.
I really love this and I want to be
Yep.
doing it full time.
Mhm.
And so when I started, it was really just, trying to do 100% coaching. And
Mhm.
like you, I actually did some accounting work as
Mhm.
well. I know you do taxes, and God bless you for doing that, because that is not my strong suit. That's not my strong suit at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not the most fun, but I do enjoy knowing enough about tax that I can help my clients as well. But only on the individual. I don't do the business or S corporation partnership. I said no, only
Right.
individuals. Personal finance only. Okay, cool.
Yes.
So yeah, so why did so you said you like working with divorced people or couples mainly because of your of your history, you know,
Yes.
um okay. So that's your niche, and then okay, so tell me more about tell me what is the most common, I guess, money behaviors you've seen with your clients, like when they come and then and I know you said the battle for the money begins in your mind, right? And I think your heart to emotions, but so what are
Right.
usually the most common behaviors, clients come to you for, that you actually that you've seen a pattern that you have to work on, a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is when I talk about the battle for the money begins in your mind, what I mean by that is there's a lot of stuff that is stored in our subconscious mind that controls our behavior.
Yep.
And a lot of people, like, I didn't learn this in biology class in high school. If I did, I was sleeping. Like, I do not remember really learning about the subconscious mind and the importance of how it governs our behavior. But, scientists typically agree that 95% of our daily actions are actually coming from our unconscious mind, not from our logical conscious thinking brain. And I mean, part of that is good, because if you and I had to put our brain power behind remembering how to tie our shoes or how to drive a car, we wouldn't have brain power left over to run our businesses. But the problem happens when there are patterns around money that are happening in the subconscious mind. that people aren't aware of. And what I see happening is, people will come to me and they'll say, I make good money.
Yep.
I'm a smart person. I mean, I've got doctors and
Yep.
engineers and, very smart business owners
Yeah.
who come to me for coaching, and they're like, what is wrong with me that I can't do this? It's like, I know it in my head, but it's just like, I can't make myself do it. And I get stuck in these, destructive patterns, whether it is, spending too much, or even just like flying by the seat of their pants and not even paying attention or not having a plan. And so what I tell them is, asking the question, what's wrong with me, is the wrong question.
Yep.
The right question is, what happened to me?
Yeah.
What happened to me that is causing me to interact with my money in this way? And so that's what you talk about a lot, is your relationship with money.
Yep.
Well, here's what a lot of people don't understand, is that they actually have a relationship with money.
Yep. Exactly.
And, to explain to them, you interact with your money every day. You're earning money, you're spending money, you're paying taxes, you're paying bills, you're donating money. And people don't really give any thought to these interactions and where they came from. And so one of my favorite exercises to do with my clients is to have them capture and either write down or create a note in their phone of all the things they say about money.
Yep.
Just for a week, especially the negative things.
Yep. Yep.
Because once we capture those things, then we can say, like, where did that come from? Right? Like if someone says, you got to work really hard to make money, or money is the root of all evil, or, I'll never get out of debt, or I'll always have a car payment.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, where did that come from? Right? Because it usually came from somewhere. And a lot of times people hear it and it's like, oh my God, my dad used to say that, or my mom used to say that, or I remember my pastor saying that. And, it's what is so fascinating to me is young children, when they are like 6 and younger, their brain waves are actually different from adult brain waves.
Yep.
And I had never learned this before, right? Like this was all like news to me. But, little kids, their brain waves are in this, like this sponge stage where they are just absorbing everything and storing it as the truth in their unconscious mind. So if something traumatic happened as a kid around money and it was emotionally charged, it's going to be stored in your subconscious mind. Like a good example is, I had a client who was having a hard time getting herself to save money. And so we did a little bit of digging, and I said, is there anything that happened in your childhood around, saving money, or something that your parents said? And, she came back to me and she's like, I know what it is. So when she was like 5 or maybe 6 years old, her older brother, who was like 6 or 7 years older than her, stole $10 from her piggy bank. And so from an adult perspective, that might not seem like a big deal. You're like, oh, that's $10. But I mean, when you're 5, that's like $1 million, right?
Exactly.
And so what we realized was, deep down in her subconscious mind, she felt like saving money wasn't safe. It wasn't safe to save money.
Yep.
And so there was this underlying distrust that money would be okay if she saved it, because past experience had taught her that it wasn't.
Yep.
And so, we did a little forgiveness work towards her brother, and, rewrote that story with a happy ending, and did some positive affirmations around, saving is fun and safe, and I love doing it. And,
Yep.
so that we could reprogram that stuff that's under the surface. And
Yep.
so I think that's what's different about my coaching is that we're working on that, but then we are also working on the tactical thing. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
bringing of those two things
Yep,
together.
exactly. Yep. I don't think you can be successful, if you don't have both of them merged together. And then I love that when you said about, about shame, like you have to be like, it's not
Yes.
my fault, because when you put shame, then it's like, you're making yourself feel bad. So how are some of the things that you've helped your clients with shame? So before we get there, why don't you tell the difference between what is guilt and shame and how you've helped your clients with overcoming money shame?
Yes, yes. Well, and like I said, I experienced that money shame myself. And so I know how destructive that can be. And with guilt, guilt can actually be productive if used properly. So if you do something wrong, typically you feel guilty about it, right? Whether it's I spent too much money on something, or I ate that hot fudge sundae and I shouldn't have. You feel that guilt, and that when you feel that guilt, you can say, "All right, well, I did a bad thing."
Mm-hmm.
And that can actually help you to change your behavior, right? So you can say, all right, I did something bad. I feel this guilt. What can I do about it? How can I do this better next time?
Mm-hmm.
But when guilt turns into shame, shame takes it from I did a bad thing to I am a bad person.
Yep. Yep.
So it takes it from being like I made a mistake to, I'm a bad person because I made this mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with this money shame cycle is that when we do something wrong and we feel shame and we internalize it,
Mm-hmm.
then we want to hide,
Yep.
right? And when we hide from it, we ignore the problem. And most importantly, we don't get the help that we need. And,
Mm-hmm.
so whether that is actually seeking resources or searching out somebody to help you, like a coach or a financial planner or a CPA. And the unfortunate thing is, and I know because I've been on the receiving end of it, is, if a financial professional doesn't have this type of training, they could say something to their client that
Mm-hmm.
causes money shame, right?
Yep.
Where they could be looking at their mistakes and saying, like, how could you do this? Like, how could you like not pay your estimated tax payments? Or how could
Yeah.
you get yourself into this much debt? And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's like exactly the opposite of what that person needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they already feel like crap about what they've done.
Yeah.
They just want to be helped.
Yep.
And so, my goal is really to take people from that place of money shame to financial dignity. And
Yep.
so that's one of the reasons why I am so super transparent about all the mistakes that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I jokingly say that my book Money is Emotional is half tabloid of my life as I crashed and burned financially, and
Yeah.
half financial how to. Um, because I think in sharing those mistakes and being open and transparent, with
Mm-hmm.
people, very much so on social media and on my website, but also even one-on-one with my clients. I divulge more information to my one-on-one clients than I do to the public.
Yep.
Especially my divorcing women clients, because I've experienced a lot of the same things that they have experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think by us financial professionals letting people know, like, hey, I'm not perfect and I'm not going to judge you. Like, my job is to help you, because there's no profit in rehashing all those mistakes unless we're going to take something and learn from them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, and so that's what I help my clients through this process of letting that go, And sometimes we need to do forgiveness work, and I know that's
Yeah.
something that you've talked about as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I actually write that. I actually wrote a letter of forgiveness to myself
Yeah.
that
Yep.
I include
Yeah.
in Money is Emotional, because it was so funny when I was writing the book. Um, for like 2 months, I felt like so emotional, and I was like crying all the time, which is like
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
me. And I called my mom and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like so emotional writing this book." And she's like, "Oh, who would have thought writing a book called Money is Emotional would be so emotional?" And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but what I realized was the reason that all that was coming up was because I hadn't forgiven my younger self for making
Yep.
those mistakes. And
Yeah.
so when I told some of those stories
Yeah.
afterwards, I was beating myself up over them and saying
Yeah.
like, why did you do that?
Yep. Yep.
Like, that was
Yeah.
so stupid.
Yeah. So, Christine, what was the key point that actually allow you to finally forgive yourself? Because that is usually the hardest, like forgiving yourself. Because I think we're just so naturally hard on ourselves. It's like, sometimes like one of the ways I help my clients is that, well, what if it's another child? Are you gonna be so bad and mean at the other child? So like, what clicked finally for you to finally forgive yourself? Like, sometimes for those people who have a hard time forgiving, like what are some of the ways that has your clients be able to forgive whatever mistakes they've made.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things is, looking at those mistakes and saying, what is the lesson here? Is there
Mm-hmm.
something that
Yep.
I can learn from this and take
Mm-hmm.
forward?
Yep.
Um, but, for me, really writing that letter of forgiveness was very, very powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
I even pulled out some pictures, like some old pictures of myself,
Yeah.
like during that time frame of when I had made those mistakes. So from my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have had people like email me and message me and say, like, I just read your letter of forgiveness to yourself and I am totally crying. Because
Oh.
it was just like I had to just like pour that all out there and say, in light of what I personally was going through, because I was dealing with my parents' divorce. So my
Yeah.
parents got divorced when I was 19, right
Yeah.
around the same time when I entered into that relationship.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of personal things that I was dealing with as well. And so I think just having compassion on yourself,
Yep.
almost as if you were
Mm-hmm.
another person. And I
Yep.
wrote it to myself almost as if that version of me was my younger sister.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And so I think that can be really super powerful.
Yeah.
And, people don't have to share the letter publicly
Mm-hmm.
in a
Yeah.
book the way I did. But
Yeah.
for me, that was like, I felt like that exercise was so powerful that I had to share
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so William was saying you're so into it. He said, Chris L, my parents live on credit their entire lives. I remember the first time that I earned more money than I needed for the month. And I just prepaid car payments because in my mind at that time, I just believed that you could not have extra money.
that.
And yeah,
Wow.
yeah, thanks for
Wow.
sharing that, William. It's like guilt can be motivating, shame is debilitating. I like
Yes.
William. He's always joining my calls. Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you for sharing. So, okay, so now this is okay, so you said that you were doing financial literacy in church. Was it a Dave Ramsey financial literacy?
It was. I
So you
actually,
okay.
yeah. So
So
I
you
actually facilitated Financial Peace University for 10 years
wow.
as a
Okay.
volunteer. So I did not get paid for that.
Mhm.
So a lot of people don't realize that, if they are taking his course, the people who are
Mhm.
facilitating those courses, they don't get paid. They're all volunteers.
Mhm.
Um, and certainly I learned a lot, from
Mhm.
him. And I did get my original financial counselor certification through his organization when they were still doing
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
a certification. I think it's a little bit
Mhm.
different now. I don't think there's an actual certification
Mhm.
with his Ramsey Solution coaches,
Mhm.
but that training was very good because it taught me all of the basics of personal finance in every single
Mm-hmm.
area, and it also gave me a good model for how to run a coaching session.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But as I said, what was lacking was that behavioral finance, because it
Mm-hmm.
really even back then wasn't much of a thing. It was very much in its infancy,
Yep.
back when I started coaching. And,
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, I used to introduce myself to people at networking events. I'd say, "Hi, I'm Christine Luken. I'm a financial coach." They'd be, "Oh, what do you mean financial coach?" And I would say, "Oh, well, I'm certified through Dave Ramsey's organization." And what I found out pretty quickly is people either love him or they hate him. And I
Okay.
also realized that a lot of financial planners don't like him.
Yeah. Okay. So, Kristen, before we go further, why don't you share with people, for those who don't know Dave Ramsey, what his methods are in summary? Like, what is the Dave Ramsey method, and then you can deep dive into more, like, how that has helped you, and then why you don't think his approach is outside. So, I do. I mean, I like Dave Ramsey in some ways. I also don't agree with some of his stuff, which I think we're probably on the same page on. So.
Yeah, so he has these 7 baby steps that he
Mhm.
says, like, everybody has to go through these steps. You
Mhm.
need, first you have to save $1,000 in your emergency fund, then you attack your all of your debt and get it paid off.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
except for the house, all your
Mhm.
credit card debt. And he is 100% against debt. He wants people to cut up their credit cards,
Mhm.
not get car loans. Um, I'm trying to think of what all the steps
And
are.
then, and no home mortgage. I think it's baby step maybe 5 or 6. Like, get rid of your
Yes.
home mortgage. So I have my
Yeah.
opinion about that too. And I also did a post about that as well. And then, like, yeah, you can really get into a big argument with a Dave Ramsey fan when it comes to, like, home mortgage loan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so, he's very intense.
Yeah.
And his approach is, you want to cut out anything extra, anything fun. You want to sell anything that you absolutely don't need, and you know, hurry up and pay off your debt as soon as possible.
Mhm.
So he
Mhm.
basically says, like, if you get really serious and you live extremely frugally, um, and maybe pick up an extra job, like, get all your debt paid off in like 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
And some people can do that. But the problem with his approach is that, and I think Susie Orman can be a little bit like this too, because I don't think she really talks much about the emotional side of money. So the Dave Ramseys and the Susie Ormans of the world, they say, if you don't like your financial results, you need to change your actions. And I'm going to give
Mhm.
you this list of actions, and you need to go through and do these 7 baby steps, or,
Mhm.
whatever they are.
Yep.
And so people start down that road, and some of them have great success, some of them have limited success, some of them have success for a period of time and then they fall off the wagon,
Mhm.
and then they say, what's wrong with me? Right? Like, maybe they've
Yep.
seen other people have success with it and they're like, well, what's wrong with me that I can't do this? Well, the
Mhm.
problem is they haven't dealt with all that stuff that's in your unconscious mind. And I really love the way Harv Eker explains it in his book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. He talks
Mhm.
about it as a money blueprint. So all of that stuff that's under the surface is your money blueprint. And so if
Mhm.
we think about a blueprint, like, Christine, if I gave you a blueprint to build a ranch house out in
Mhm.
Las Vegas, right? You can only build a ranch house with that blueprint. Like, I don't care how hard you work, how fast you work, or who you hire, or what building materials you buy, you're
Mhm.
only going to get a ranch house with that blueprint. And the only way you're going to get a 2-story is if you go
Mhm.
back and you change the blueprint.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of people out there who want to build the equivalent of a 2-story financial house,
Mhm.
but they're operating out of a ranch blueprint, so to speak,
Yep. Yep.
in their unconscious mind. And
Mm-hmm.
so they may have tried Financial Peace University, or they may have read Susie Orman's book and tried her methods and had limited success. And then they feel like, because it didn't work for me long term, there's something wrong with
Mm-hmm.
me. And I'm not super familiar, with Susie Orman's approach. But I would say my biggest beef with Dave Ramsey's approach is the extremeness of it, because he's essentially teaching people what I call financial binge and purge. So, like, if you take somebody who is overspending and they've got credit cards and they haven't been tracking anything, and you say, okay, now I'm going to put you on this extreme budget, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You haven't taught them what normal looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the equivalent of someone who is, eating a bunch of sugar and drinking 3 Mountain Dews a day and putting them on like the Atkins plan or, keto.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're probably, even if they have success on that plan,
Mm-hmm.
if they can never have a Mountain Dew, if they can never have a candy bar, at some point they're going to quit.
Yeah.
And if their health coach hasn't taught them
Mm-hmm.
how to have a candy bar every once in a while or how to have a Mountain Dew
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while,
Yep.
then it's not going to last long term. And so they're going
Mm-hmm.
to, you've got these people who are doing this financial yo-yoing. And so
Mm-hmm.
what's really crazy is when I first started coaching, my first coaching clients were my students who had gone through Financial Peace University several years ago and fallen off the wagon.
Yeah.
They came back to me and they're like, we did good for 2 years, or we did good for 18 months, or we did good for a year. And then we fell off the wagon. And sometimes they were even worse than when they had started Financial Peace University. And so that's when I really started digging into this stuff and saying, why isn't this working for people long term?
Yep.
And it's because you have to teach people how to balance having some fun and enjoying life
Yep.
while they're achieving their long-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you tell me, Christine, you can't go get your nails done, which I did today, until your mortgage is paid in full. I don't think so. I mean, that's the goal that my husband and I are working on right now. And it's actually, we're at like 38,000. So we are pretty close to getting it paid in full. But we still have room for fun in our spending plan.
Yep.
And as you know, I avoid calling it a budget because I know people have so many negative attachments to that word.
To which word?
Budget.
Okay. You know what?
Yeah.
I actually still use that. What I help my client is I transform how they feel to the word budget. So, but I think,
Yes.
I think it's, I don't know. I never had a problem, but I know some people, they don't like that word.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
just call it a spending plan because I figure, if I call it a spending plan, which is part of their overall
Yeah.
prosperity plan, there's
Yeah.
no negative connotation with that. So we don't
Yep.
even have to worry about it.
Yeah. So, okay. So, how does if someone comes to you, so what is your process like when you're working with clients? 'Cause I know you said I'm not sure how many programs you have, or like I mean, how do you typically help a client? So just, let's put aside the financial professional, just like regular clients or regular
Yes.
people then divorce.
Yes.
So how does it work working with you?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is I only have one package, and that is
Okay.
my 6-month coaching package.
Okay.
And that is because we are uncovering that money blueprint and we are permanently fixing it. So that takes time.
Yeah.
And my approach, like I said, it's not extreme. I'm not asking them to do a list of 10 things every month. We are chunking it into bite-size pieces, and we are doing this slow, continual transformation, and moving them to a place of feeling financially healthy. So in month 2, we get them all set up on a spending
Mm-hmm.
app. And each and every time we meet, we're actually logging in together on Zoom. We're looking at their spending categories, we're making adjustments. And so we're building these long-term habits with
Mm-hmm.
them. And pairing that mindset work along with the practical, tangible things that they're doing each and
Mm-hmm.
every month. So I do have like a general flow, as far as like
Mm-hmm.
what sorts of topics we talk about every month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially like month 1 and 2, because month 1 is all about really assessing exactly where they are, but
Mm-hmm.
also getting them to clarify what success looks like for them. Because
Yep.
sometimes people are just, they've been in debt so long, or they've been treading water so long, it's almost like they're hopeless and they haven't really thought about
Yeah.
what success looks like. And
Yeah.
so, part of that process is getting them to say, if I woke up tomorrow and felt
Mm-hmm.
really good about my money, what does that look like? And
Let
for
them
each
visualize. Yeah, I love it.
Yes, and
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
for each individual or each couple, it looks different.
Mhm.
And so, that first month is really spent on getting clarity. The second month is really nailing down that and refining that spending plan.
Mhm.
But as we move along, it depends on what the client really needs. So, I have some clients who, are really working on paying off debt. I have other clients who, own a business and feel like they really need to get their hands around, you know, how do I do my spending plan when my income varies from month to month,
Yeah. Yep.
right? And so helping them to put those various pieces into place. Or I've got another
Mhm.
client that, him and his wife, they really want to buy a house.
Mhm.
And, they've got some dings on their credit. So there's some things that that we're
Mhm.
cleaning up and taking care of.
Mhm.
And so it is very individualized
Yep.
for that individual or couple.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I always tell my clients, they always will prospect when you're on the or when we're on the call. They're like, "So how does it work weekly?" I said, "There is no agenda because everyone is very different. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
you will have homework, but it's like there's no like week 1, week 2, week 3. So, but this is how
Right.
what we're gonna work on, right? So, but
Mm-hmm.
I understand you have a course as well, right? Or group coaching, or is it all one on one?
Yeah, so all of my coaching is one on one, but I do have a membership group.
Okay.
Because my coaching is pretty intense and it's a long period of time,
Mm-hmm.
for some people it is out of their price range. Most of my clients are making 6 figures. So
Mm-hmm.
there are certain people who are just like, that's a little too expensive for me, but I really,
Mm-hmm.
like your methods and I want to learn from you. I
Mm-hmm.
do have a membership, and that
Mm-hmm.
is Financial Dignity on Demand. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I only open the doors to that membership usually 3 times a year,
Mm-hmm.
but it is essentially all of the tools in my tool belt that I use with clients.
Mhm.
So the difference is when I'm working with somebody one on one, I'm hand selecting those tools to say, for your particular situation, I'm spoon feeding them all the information, and I don't give them anything that they don't need. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? So,
Yep, yep.
so they're just getting that,
Yeah.
just exactly the tools that they need. Obviously, they're
Mhm.
getting, my individualized feedback to them.
Mhm.
But if people are like, hey, I really want to get out of debt, I want to understand the emotional side of money,
Mhm.
they can enroll in my membership. And the great thing is there's no commitment. So they can join and just stay in for 1 month and then
Mhm.
say, oh, you know, that was nice. I'm done after this month. Or, I've just had a woman cancel her membership after 18 months.
Mm.
So, it's really just a matter of, you know, you stay in there as long as you need to,
Mhm.
in order to get your finances under control. And, I also send those some of those specific videos to certain clients where I might say like, hey, I feel like you need more help with like understanding how credit works. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I had this master class as part of my membership, and I'm going to send you this video.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then once people graduate out of the 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they want to switch from monthly coaching to quarterly coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And if they switch to that, basically it's an annual maintenance. They
Mm-hmm.
also get free access to the membership.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, if it's like, okay, I'm used to meeting with Christine like every 2 weeks, and now we're meeting every 6 weeks, they've got that membership where they can jump in and watch different videos and,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they're staying on track with what they need to.
So you're saying the membership includes access to you, or
So it includes
uh,
access to me inside of the Facebook group.
oh, got it, got it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So basically,
Yeah.
it's what does it has? It's Facebook group. What else is it?
So there's like 40 videos in the video
Mm-hmm.
library, along
Mm-hmm.
with, worksheets. Every single Monday, there's a
Mm-hmm.
featured lesson of the week. I call it Money Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
every Monday, even if people are lazy and they don't log into the course, they're going to get a
Mm-hmm.
lesson delivered right into their inbox. So they can click on the link, they can watch the video, they can,
Got it.
do the worksheet lesson. And so they can still be getting that
Mm-hmm.
information. But,
Mm-hmm.
I can give my clients free access to that. So if they're getting the
Got it. Okay,
one-on-one,
I
they
get it.
also get the benefit of that.
Okay, cool, cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, for everyone, who's interested in working with you, yeah, you have the one-on-one and the group coaching. So actually, you mentioned a little bit about the credit thing. So like, if someone come to you and then, I know you've done this webinar, I've attended, but for people listening, like if they ask you, hey, I have a 600 credit score, like what is usually the easiest way you tell them to actually improve that if they really want to improve it?
Yeah. So I don't actually do credit repair specifically,
Mm-hmm.
but I can help people to look at their credit report and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, here are some things that you need to clean up. Like if there's old
Mm-hmm.
collections on there,
Mm-hmm.
I funny story. I actually used to work for Citibank as a
Uh,
collector in college. I know.
so
So here's
you're
the funny.
calling people?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well,
I
so
can imagine you being this collector being mean, like, give me your money.
so it was funny because like I did really well when I worked in the 1 month and the 2 month past due department, and then when they moved me to the 3 month past due department, I started not doing so well because I did have a hard time being mean to people.
Oh wow. They train you to be mean to people?
Well, there are laws that you have to follow, but they would actually teach us certain techniques to elicit emotion from people so we could get a payment from them.
Wow.
Yes.
Tough. Yeah, yeah.
So I now use that to my advantage if I have a client
Yeah, I'm
that's
like
dealing with those things. But in general, I have to remind people like your credit score is only one measure of your financial
Yep,
success. And it's really
exactly.
not the best, right? Your net
Mm-hmm.
worth,
Yes.
your assets minus your liabilities, that's
Mm-hmm.
the best measure of how
Yep.
financially successful you are.
Yep.
And I like to use the analogy of your weight, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I could weigh exactly the same amount,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you run 2 miles a day and you drink a protein shake for breakfast, but I smoke a pack of cigarettes and eat a sleeve of donuts
Mm-hmm.
every day. So it's like, all right, you can't really say we're equally healthy because we have
Yeah.
the exact same weight. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with your credit score because
Yep.
you could win the lottery tonight and that doesn't change your credit score 1
Mm-hmm.
point, so
Yeah.
if you got $20 million, doesn't change your credit score. So
Yep.
I tell people to focus on being financially healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
if they are getting ready to do a major purchase like a home purchase, a lot of mortgage brokers have a lot of great tips on like do's and don'ts for kind of fine tuning your credit
Mm-hmm.
score.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if someone has a really awesome credit score, but they don't have any savings and they have a bunch of debt,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's way too much importance on the credit score.
Yeah.
But unlike Dave Ramsey, your credit score does matter. So you can't say like it doesn't matter at all
He
because he
says
actually
that it
says
doesn't
that.
matter.
Oh yeah, he's like if you don't want to borrow money, like who cares? And he brags that he has no credit score because he doesn't borrow money.
But we're in America. I think okay. So I don't know if he knows how much Silicon Valley house costs. It's like in the $1 million. Unless you have a rich parents or whatever, there's there's no way you can like pay that off really unless you have a really really good job. But then yeah. So anyway, that's one thing I don't agree with him. Okay, so I'm not gonna go there now. So thank you so much, Lucan. So how can people find you? I know you're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook, and then so
Yes.
yeah, and then people want to reach out to you, and then for anything, like what's the best way to reach out to you, and where do you show up normally?
Yeah, so LinkedIn and Facebook are my two big profiles
Mm-hmm.
that I'm on. Yes, my virtual assistant posts me everywhere, but I recently locked myself out of my Twitter account, and I really don't care. So
Yeah, I don't like Twitter. I don't get Twitter.
yeah, but if people want to go, my website is just my name. It's christineluken.com.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if they're interested in my book, Money is Emotional, they can go to moneyisemotional.com
Mm-hmm.
and they can download the first 3 chapters of the book to kind of get a
Oh.
feel for some of the things that I teach about the emotional side of money.
Okay, before we end, okay, so William just talk about this. Okay, I'm sorry, William, if I miss you. I said, guys, can you please talk about responsible use of debt? I'll let you start with that. So I don't mind having debt as long as you know how to use it. So why don't you go start?
Well, I think as long as we have a good purpose for that debt, that it is okay. If we are
Mm-hmm.
borrowing money to buy assets, uh,
Mm-hmm.
or if we are using credit cards as a payment method,
Mm-hmm.
not a debt machine. So by that I mean like I have a business credit card, I have a personal credit card. I actually pay them multiple times a month.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like I
Yeah.
charge because I like the protection that a credit card gives me
Mm.
versus allowing people to have access to a debit card. Like if there's a fraudulent transaction,
Okay.
that money comes out of your bank account versus, if there's a fraudulent charge and you dispute it on your credit card, it's that money's not gone and you have to go back and get it. You just don't pay that
Mm-hmm.
charge and the credit card company goes after it. But
Yeah.
the way I like to talk about debt is you want to think about debt like a weight. So like a dumbbell. So if I handed you a 1 pound dumbbell and I said, Christine, you have to carry this 1 pound weight with you wherever you go today. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you could throw that in your backpack or your purse, or it'd probably even fit in your pocket, and you might even forget about it by
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day because it doesn't feel very weighty.
Mm-hmm.
But if I strapped a 50-pound weight to your back and I said, you have to carry this with you everywhere you go, like even the simplest of tasks, like bending over to tie your shoe or trying to walk your dogs, like
Mm-hmm.
that would be impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so we really want to think of it as, am I comfortable with the level of debt that I'm carrying?
Mm-hmm.
Because once we get to that point to where it causes us financial and emotional stress,
Mm, yep.
then that's when it's too much. And it's a very individualized thing
Yep.
because your financial muscles might be bigger than
Mm-hmm.
mine. And what I mean by financial muscle is your net worth, your income.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I am coaching a doctor who makes $300,000 a year and he has
Mm-hmm.
$50,000 in student loan debt, that might not feel that weighty to him.
Yep.
But if I'm coaching a nurse who makes $85,000 a year and she has $50,000 in student loan debt, I mean, that might feel like it's crushing her,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it is relative.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and,
Yeah.
I can see William's question, if you can get debt at 2% interest and, get rental property that is producing cash flow, um, Yeah, but you obviously want to go into it educated. If you're going to go into buying rental real estate, you want to
Mhm.
ensure that you have a cash cushion, that
Mhm.
you understand what costs you need to set aside for
Mhm.
vacancies and repairs
Mhm.
and
Yep.
different things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, I think as long as you go into it with, you know, being educated, getting advice from people who,
Mhm.
are experts in that field. Absolutely.
Okay. I think someone's knocking at my door. So yeah, so thank you so much, Lucan, for joining in. And then I really appreciate this. And then yeah, thank you, William, for that wonderful question. So for me, like I'm just gonna end this. Like for example, I had a house mortgage, and then so it was like 3.625%. I had a tax deduction and everything. So for me, I just decided I'm gonna run the 30-year mortgage, because then I invest the rest of my money, and that has been given me 7% historically. So I mean, it's a no-brainer to put that money somewhere else that can give me a better ROI, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, do you have any last word before we end, Christine?
Only just to say to remember that the battle for your money begins in your mind, and
Mm-hmm.
don't ignore the money mindset piece of it. If you want long-term success,
Mm-hmm.
you have
Yep,
to have a good relationship with your money.
exactly. Well said. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, everyone, for
Thanks for
joining.
having
Have a
me.
good night. Bye bye.